evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Let's have your seat as soon as possible. We have to go right into the demos tonight. Everyone, have your seat. Good evening. Okay, we have a short time to do our natural remedy tonight, so I think my speaker's going out again. Okay, I think the speaker, the volume is down. I don't think it's on right now. It's not on. Yeah. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Okay, can we have a seat as soon as possible? I have to go right into the demo. Good evening, everyone, and I hope you will enjoy tonight's demo and everything that we're going to do tonight. To God's glory, I hope you will enjoy it. We're going to pray at this time. As soon as we have our seats, we will begin our prayer and we will go right into the demo. Okay, let's get ready to bow our heads so we can pray. Our Father, we come before you thanking you for this time together. We pray you will bless all that's done, that you may receive all the glory, all the honor. Father, bless these recipes and all the food, and we pray it will be a nourishment to us. Thank you for all your blessings in Jesus' name. Amen. Good evening. Once again, my name is Deborah Holland, and we're here tonight. We're going to start out with a real short demo. And how many of you have attempted to make elderberry syrup? You know, the colds and flus are going around right now, and this is a very good recipe to make for your colds and flus. So that's what we're going to be working on tonight. We're going to demo how you do your own elderberry syrup. And we're going to talk you through the elderberry cough drops because we don't have that much time. Okay, so let's go get right with it. I want to thank Margaret Edwards. Margaret is hiding out in the audience here. She is my helper, and I thank her for all the help she did to help me to get this set up tonight. So, okay, the recipe here, you have a recipe. Some of the recipes may have gotten chopped off a little on the side. So if so, fill in where you are missing the amount. It may be cut off at that point. Okay, so it's 1 1/4 cup of fresh dried elderberries, 3 tablespoons of dried hibiscus flower, 3 tablespoons of dried rose hip. We didn't use that tonight because Christina's didn't have it. 2 teaspoons of grated fresh ginger. We're using powder instead tonight, ginger powder. 5 cloves. We have clove powder we're using instead. We have 2 teaspoons of dried horehound, which is good to help loosen up that phlegm. We have and the rest, we have your raw honey, 1 cup of raw honey. We're using, again, 1 1/4 cup of water. So I have already made in advance. We already did, because you have to boil this for at least an hour. You bring it to a simmer, you put it on, bring it to a boil, and then you let it simmer for an hour, okay? And you just go in and stir it occasionally. And so that we have already taken this up to the hour amount of time. And so this is your elderberry. Let me show you real quickly. This is your dried elderberry. It looks like little bitty, it's just little bitty dried elderberries. And so you can order this from Frontier on Amazon. And you can order it, and it comes in this small size, and it'll last you a long time. And this is known to be one of the best companies. People mention that they love to get theirs from this company, okay? So let's get started right away. So like I said, we have already cooked this, taken it to a simmer stage. So now we're gonna start as if we were doing this fresh, okay? So this is 1 1/4 cup of water we're adding to this pot. Okay, and then we're going to plug this in. And because of time, we're not going to go through it. We can't wait for everything to cook. So we added our 1 1/4 cup of water. Now we're going to add the elderberries. Usually you want to bring it to a boil of water at least, and then add your elderberries, but we don't have time tonight to do that. We have this in. Okay, and now his biscuit. This is dried flowers. Look, they're just little chunks of dried flowers. Okay, and you can get this at Christina's Whole Food store. It's the Christina store right there on the Barstow and First. Okay, so now we have that in. We're going to stir it up. And now we're going to add our seasonings, our herbs that goes inside. We have the horehound, and again, like I said, and it's little dried up, it's the same thing as little dried up herbs. Okay, you're going to add that and stir it in, and that is 2 teaspoons. You have the recipe for that. And now we're going to add our ginger powder. We're going to add the clove powder, and we're stirring all this up well. Okay, now we would let this, like I said, you're going to bring it to a boil, then you're going to turn it down and let it simmer, okay, for 1 hour. Okay, everyone understand that? 1 hour. But you still want to come in and stir it. And you want, because some stoves are different, some overcook and some, so you want to keep an eye on this. And once it's done, you will strain it. So you will get your strainer, you will put it over the pot, pour the mixture in to strain it, okay? So that is the recipe in itself. Now to take it to the next stage, what we would need to do is, I'm going to turn this off, we don't need that. We need this one. Can I get a helper real quick, someone to take this back to the kitchen? Because it's hot, I don't want to sit it on the counter. Thank you, so don't burn yourself, hold it up here. Okay, now the next stage we're going to do is, because we have this one is already ready, we're going to add it to the pot. Now, if I was creating my cough drop right now, I would add the same thing, I do the same thing I'm doing. Right now I'm making we have a juice, the elderberry juice, that you can take by teaspoons, or you can take 3 times a day, 1 teaspoon 3 times a day. If you're even starting to feel like you're getting a cold, start taking it right away. So you add it to your pot, okay? And then you will add all of since you already have everything in this already, you have all the herbs, only thing you didn't add was your honey, because you wanted to make sure you cook everything and strain it, pour it back in the pot, and then you're going to add your honey. Okay, so here's a cup of honey. You're going to add this now to the mixture. And if I was creating my own cough drop, it's the same thing. The only difference is I will let it continue to cook. I will turn it up on this. I'm going to put it on a low simmer so I don't overcook it while it's the honey is melting in well. But if I wanted to make cough drops, I'm going to turn the heat up to the regular high, not too high, but medium high. And I'm going to let it come to a crystallization form in order for the honey to make the hard candy. I want to bring it to a crystallization form, which is usually 200 degrees. about 200 degrees on the stove. You can use your candy thermometer or to check the temperature. Okay, now if I wanted to add herbs to this, I still would need to wait until it cools down some, or it's just going to destroy your herbs, you know, because it's too hot. Okay, so we have this in, and now you would just use your strainer once you've done that. And these are little jars. You can get them at Walmart or wherever you would like. There are different places that sell the little jars. And you will pour up your elderberry syrup. This is a syrup. So we will pour it up. And usually you might get 2 jars, and you might get 2.5. It depends on it. Okay. Okay, we got exactly pretty well 2 jars of that, didn't we? Okay. I'll put it up here for a minute. Okay, so that is really what you're doing to make the elderberry syrup. And here you have 2 jars of, and you will place it in your refrigerator every day, and you can give it to the kids. Now, if you were doing, let me quickly say this, we're going to do this demo another day. If you were doing this for children, babies, little kids, they cannot, it's not good to give them the honey. So if you were doing this for smaller kids, 2, 3, 4 years old, instead of using honey, you're going to use 1 cup of vegetable glycerin. Okay? You're going to do the same process, same herbs, everything, except you're going to do a different process. You're not going to use water. You're not going to use once you use the water and you add your berries and you bring it to cook it and everything, then you're going to strain it, and then you're going to put it back on the stove, and you're not going to add any water to that. You add your glycerin, and you just stir it, and that needs to cook for 3 hours on low simmer. But we're going to do that demo another day so you can exactly see how it goes, okay? For sake of time. Now the cough drops, like I said, you would, once you've done the cough drops, these are the cough drops. They will come out. If I can get a volunteer, Deborah, I would like you to come and try one. Tell us what you think. So these are the cough drops, and you just put them in the freezer, and you can take them out when you're coughing or your family and enjoy one of your elderberry cough drops. Okay, and you will tell us what you think. You can just suck on it for cause for food. You like it? No? Most medicine is not gonna, you may not like it because you got all these herbs combined, but if you know what's in it, that's the point. You know what's in your cough drops, and the elderberry is excellent. It's a vitamin A, B, it has so many nutritional values to it, to where you are going to get, most people are over the cold in a matter of a day or 2 from just doing their elderberry syrup and giving it to the whole family. And of course, doing the things to keep everybody from getting sick, washing your hands and all of that, right? So, yeah, we will have one of these for each one of you to try and see how you like it. Now, you can add more honey, a little more honey if you want, if you like it sweeter. Or you can boil, instead of adding the cloves, I usually use fresh ginger. But we didn't have it on that, so I used the powder, which is a little stronger. And yeah. Huh? If you do, you want to do a glycerin, because the glycerin is the vegetable glycerin, which is low, it has a low glycemic index, you know. And so you can give that to little kids, even 2 and 3 year olds. So, but we're going to do that demo because there's a process to that, because if you don't do it the right way, you can have an explosion. So we want to, we're going to show you how to do that on maybe the next one, okay? Okay, any questions real quick? Okay, I think we're done now since we have no questions. So yeah, like I said, you can get this on Amazon, Frontier. That's the company that sells it. And so get you some elderberry. You can freeze this and keep it, and you're usually only using a cup of it. So you can put the rest in the freezer and make it up keep it in the refrigerator. And when you feel like you're getting a little chill or you're under the weather, take your elderberry syrup, okay? Okay, thank you so much, and I'm going to. Testing, testing. Okay, right now, while we figure this mic out, yeah.
Okay, so, thank you, Deborah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was wonderful. Keep us all from getting sick and, we'll set a good example. Tonight, we're going to be demonstrating how to cook a meal in 30 minutes. How's the food so far? What do you think? Is it good? You like it? Okay. We all have forks in one hand. We have a free hand. So today, I'm going to show you how to make potato stew. And it's a recipe that'll serve 4 people. If you're like me and my wife, it might serve only 2. But remember, what you want to do is get things done in advance so that you can basically cheat your way through this. Okay? What I'm saying is, if you have things made in advance, you don't have to cook everything at the same time. You can just warm up some things that are already cooked. So we're going to be having today, we're going to have potatoes, we're going to have a side of broccoli, and we're going to have a salad. Now in the, what's that? Oh. So anyway, what we have prepared in advance is the sauces, and like we showed you last month, the sauces are very easy to make. I made them. So if I can make them, anyone can make them. We have beans. Now you can make your own beans, or you can open up a can. Either way is fine. You get your grains set up beforehand so that you can take them out and utilize them quickly. Today we're not going to utilize any grains though. And we're going to be using potatoes. So Saturday night you do your preparations for things that you can utilize over the next 2-3 days. Some things last longer in the fridge than others. Broccoli may not last too long. So, but anyway, we're ready to start the clock. So, anyway, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our stuff ready for our stew. We're going to get 1 cup of water. You're going to turn on my wife is my technical director. She's going to turn on the timer for me. Because that's okay. All right. So start the clock. 30 minutes, folks. We're going to make this in 30 minutes. Started? Yes. Okay. So first thing we're going to do, we got our hot plate turned on, and we're going to get 1 cup. All right. You want to get your water boiling. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the potatoes, which cook the longest. So now we've already washed them. It's one of our techniques to save time. important when you slice things, you don't want to slice your fingers off. That's counterproductive. And it's always a good idea to have the serrated edge facing the potato. As you can see, I'm not a professional, but that's good. This demonstrates that you don't have to be a professional to be able to cook something.
Mike's not working.
Mike's not working. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, that's good. So anyway, we want to have our vegetables fresh. And clean. And one of the things that you can do for your lettuce is you can wash them and then wrap them in a clean dish towel, not one that you've already used, and then wrap it up and then put it in the fridge in a plastic bag so it stays moist, but it won't get wilty. Is it hot?
Probably not plugged in. No, the pot.
Is the pot plugged?
The pot is plugged into the power strip.
No power. You're in trouble.
Plug into the power strip. Cord to the fire.
Oh, wow.
Never just used it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
So, how long will it take for that to start water boiling? Okay. Okay. So now we're done with the potatoes, and I still have all 10 fingers. That's good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut up our pepper. And it's going to be similar to the way we cut that potato. We're just going to slice it lengthwise. And then we'll slice it into little tiny squares so that it'll cook nice and quickly too. All right. How's our water? It's getting warm? Okay. Okay. All right. This. All right. Yeah, we're going to be putting peppers into the salad as well. So the next thing we're gonna cut while we're waiting for our water to boil is our mushrooms. We're kind of going in order of the amount of time it takes for each thing to cook. And the mushrooms don't need as much time as potatoes. So the way we cut the mushrooms is we slice them in half internally and then slice them the other way. You don't want to slice them too small because if you do, they disappear. You won't be able to find them in the food. Now, how's the water? It's starting to boil, folks. Oh. Well, we only have a cup of water in the pot. You don't need a whole lot of water. See, what's going to happen is after the potatoes cook and we throw in some of the other things like the greens, water will be coming out of the greens and that'll start adding to the water. If you start off with too much water, you're going to end up with soup. And, you know, soup is all right, but if you didn't want to make soup, it's not all right. Now, is the water boiling yet? Does that even work with an electric one? All right. So now, after we're done with our mushrooms, we'll be attacking the greens. As you can see, so far, what we've been doing is relatively simple. So, next. Okay. So now we got these greens. Gonna use them all? Yeah. All right. We're just going to chop them up a little bit so that they're not long and stringy. There's one thing you don't want to do is end up eating your greens and they start behaving like spaghetti. You chop it up and it's a little bit easier to manage on your fork. So now, let's take the rest of this and throw this in here. Okay, Yahoo! It's time to throw the potatoes in. And get our spoon here. We want to try to get them flat and even so they all cook. And then, there you go. Okay, so now we're going to set this timer for 10 minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to finish chopping up the greens. I don't know, maybe they should make a knife that has serrated edge on both sides. So I don't keep using the wrong side. Now folks, if you use the wrong side, don't get discouraged. You can always flip the knife over just like I did. It's a simple technique, not very hard to learn. And you don't have to go to culinary school to master that technique. All right, so now, all right. So we're done with the greens. Here, wait, let's do that here. Okay, so now that we're pretty much done with everything for the stew, let's go after our salad ingredients while we're waiting. So this is the key to getting things done quickly, multitasking. While something's happening, do something else. So we're gonna unwrap our lettuce, and we're going to cut it all up. It'll be unrecognizable when we're done with it. Thank you. All right. Now, if you get the romaine lettuce, you can do that really easy. Just hold it, cut it lengthwise, or do freestyle, whatever you want to do. As long as you cut it, it should be fine. And what's that? So now, the next thing we're going to do after our lettuce in the bowl. Okay. Here we go. All right. There we go. The next thing, okay, we're going to do another pepper. But this pepper will stay raw. It will not go in the fire. Okay. So slice it lengthwise, and slice it the other way. Next, we're going to cut some tomatoes. Now you can use the regular large tomatoes, you can use the little ones, whatever you like. It's up to you. I'm going to just use these little ones and slice them once. Very uncomplicated. And that's the way I like it. You know, that's probably one of the advanced techniques. Which, now do I have to chop these up? Yes, thank you. These I don't have to chop. That's one of the things we did previously. And you're allowed to cheat. When I was in art school, they told us whatever you use, whatever you do, as long as it works, it's okay. So you can cheat. Same thing with cooking. You can cheat. What's that? Okay. So let's. We'll just toss this, and we have 5 minutes for our potatoes to still go. And now, the salad is pretty much tossed. Remember, salad is freestyle. You can throw things in there that you like. You can leave stuff out that you don't like. Now we're going to put, so the lemon tahini, which is one of the things we made last month, that's what we're going to use on the salad. But I'm not going to pour it on the salad for you to look at. You can just imagine it. Because if I pour it on, by the time we get it home, it's going to be kind of soggy. So we're going to eat this tomorrow morning, right? So we don't want it to be soggy tomorrow morning. So anyway, what I'm saying is, while something's happening, you're doing something else. Utilizing your time management. Now, if you'll notice, we only have one burner up here. We were thinking of squeezing everybody into the kitchen, but I think there were rules and regulations. City of Fresno doesn't allow that many people in the kitchen, so we couldn't demonstrate this with more than one burner. So you're going to have to imagine, while we're doing this, if we have another burner, we can take our broccoli, which we re-cooked a little, just blanched it, and then put that in a pot and let it go towards the last 15 minutes of what our demonstration would be, okay? So, you don't want to overcook your vegetables. So when you first had your broccoli and you prepared it in advance, you just put it in and let it cook for like a minute or two, and then put it in the fridge, prepare it and wrap it. And then when you're ready to do the actual cooking, you bring it out towards the end, like right about now, and you warm that up, and you finish the process of preparing your broccoli. So it's ready when 30 minutes are over. And then, if you're like us, tomorrow morning, you'll be putting the yellow sauce that you have already prepared on your broccoli, and it's going to taste absolutely delicious. For those folks who don't like broccoli, even President George Herbert Walker Bush would have liked eating broccoli if he had this yellow sauce on it. Unfortunately, nobody told him about it, so he never ate his broccoli. Anyway, one more minute to throw in the peppers, right? So anyway, so you understand about the broccoli, right? I'm not cheating. It's just that we don't have another burner. Okay. So now I'm going to throw in our peppers. Thank you. And the peppers are going to go for 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes. Okay. Now we get our, that would be a drag if we ended up with everything on the floor. Okay, we cover up. And let me check my notes. All right. So, does anyone have any questions about anything? Yes?
I see a little bit on the recipe too. It says 1 coconut ginger sauce. What is that supposed to be?
The coconut ginger sauce will be coming very shortly.
No, but it says 1. One what?
One what?
One gallon?
Sorry, that was a typo.
That's all I need to know.
Oh, yes, 1 cup, yes. Yeah. Okay, with your salad, if you wanted to throw in, do we have olives? You could throw olives in there, you could throw avocados in there. You could put sliced nuts in. Mushrooms, you could throw mushrooms in too. I truly believe, and this is a conviction of mine, that there are no 2 salads ever in all of history that are exactly the same. But, what's that? Okay, now it's time for the mushrooms to go in. Move over, guys. Yes, this one thing we definitely do not want is a stew on the floor or on the table. What's that? Very good. All right, so let that go. So now, what's that? Any other questions? I can't believe how quick we're going. get one of Deborah's remedies when I'm coming down with a cold. Anyway, oh yeah, we were supposed to set the timer. Oops. Is that it? 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, so now we can throw the greens in, right? Throw the greens, and then throw the chickpeas as well. And we're almost done. So it's almost time for us to throw in the sauce, right? Yes. All right. So now we let this go for 2 more minutes, right? Okay. So that's it. And question, yes.
Where do you get the tahini sauce?
Where do we get the tahini sauce?
Most supermarkets have it, but the cheapest one is at Fresno Deli, or Middle Eastern stores.
Or what?
Fresno Deli.
Fresno Deli or a Middle Eastern store?
You can get it at Trader Joe's, you can get it at Smart Final. You can get it at
Trader Joe's, Smart and Final. Did you pick that one up too?
And it's already in a jar like that. Yeah.
It's just a tahini though.
So just a tahini for butter.
Not
And then
the
there's a
sauce.
recipe for the sauce.
Yeah, the sauce you have to make.
Oh,
But the sauces are very easy.
And the recipe is on the handout.
Yeah, the recipe for the sauce is on the handout.
okay.
See, if I repeat what she says, it takes longer. So, yes,
About putting it the nutritional
nutritional yeast.
yeast.
You talk to my wife.
Most supermarkets carry it, Winco has it, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's.
Talking to the mic. All right, put this in here. All of it, right? Okay. I keep thinking I'm stepping on somebody's foot. Something's underneath the rug over here. I don't know what it is. That's it? Okay. Sorry, honey, I wasn't listening to you. I was listening to you. This would work better, right? If you stir with your rubber spatula, you will not have a rubber spatula.
Silicone having a problem.
What's that?
Silicone spatula, no problem.
Oh, okay, cool. We're learning things. This is good. I'm all for learning. I like it. It's a very good thing. What's that? 3 minutes. Okay, so now we're pretty much done with the food. The stew looks really good. Okay. Can you see it? It looks good enough to eat. What's that? Yeah. Okay, so we can shut this off, right? All right. So now, okay, so that's off. If you want a dessert, okay, and you want something that is not, how should I say, pre-packaged, some science experiment from some very large multinational company, what you want to do is make it yourself. And one thing that you do really easily is go into your kitchen, pull out your dates, okay? Slice the dates in half, take out the seed, of course. Those aren't very good. But then replace the seed with like a pecan or some other kind of nut that you like. Throw that in there and you have a dessert like that. It's pretty quick. So All right, so is that it? Are we done? We did it in 30 minutes? Even less than 30 minutes. So now, there you have it. Even I can make something in 30 minutes. Thank you so much. Next month, we're going to be talking about cheese. Some people like cheese. So we're going to show you how to make a vegan version with no animal products in it at all. We're going to make mozzarella, ricotta, creamy pimento cheese, and we're even going to make milk. What's that? And some other ones. Yes. So now it's time for Deborah to introduce, and I'm going to get out of the way.
Okay. Okay, did you enjoy that? Nice to see a husband and wife cooking together, right? Yes, praise the Lord. Well, now we have a guest speaker tonight, and I'm going to tell you a little about him. Okay, tonight, we're honored to have Mrs. Scott Cornwell with us tonight. And it's not working. We have to, yeah, I'm sorry. I hope you can hear my voice. Tonight, Mrs. Scott Cornwell is with us, and he works as a physical therapist. He's been working as a physical therapist for 36 years. That's a long time, huh? To help people, because physical therapy is a form of help, helping people to get healthy, to stay healthy. And so it is an excellent form of working and helping people. So he's been doing this for 36 years, and he will provide us with invaluable information tonight as to what we can do to stay in fitness and in the midst of health. We welcome you tonight, Mr. Scott.
Thank you. All right. As Deborah said, I am Scott Cornwell, and I am a physical therapist. I've been doing it for a couple of years. Currently, I'm actually working at a facility called Concentra Medical. Been there for almost 10 years, and we do workers' compensation, basically. So if you get injured on the job, I might see you there. Hopefully not, but I might see you there. Tonight, we're going to actually be talking about a subject that we don't have enough time to talk about it tonight. But let's just put it that way. This is a subject that I spent a whole semester in college going over. But I hope to give you enough of an overview that you'll understand the importance of including it in your life, and enough of a brief how-to so that you can at least get started on something very simple along these lines. I'm going to be passing out some outlines so that you have kind of a bullet point. If you got a pen, you can write your own notes on it. John and Nancy are going to hand those out to you guys. At the end, I'm also going to be having some handouts, hopefully right there on that table. Those handouts are going to include another outline that I take with me when I go to health fairs. It's something I hand out to the general public when they come to see us at our health fairs. And it's tailored to that particular populace. So you can take that outline. I also have specific exercise sets that you can pick up. They're divided into ankle exercises, knee exercises, hip, shoulder, elbow, wrist, neck, back. There's one for each of them. They include some basic strengthening, some basic stretching exercises. So that will be a part of us getting you involved. But First off, if you look at the outline that's being handed out, it's called decreasing pain and increasing energy. Is there anybody here that's having pain today? Okay, we got back there, okay. What do you do to treat that? What's that? Walk. Okay. Physical therapy, okay. All right. Anybody use like icing, heating, maybe take a hot bath, anything like that? Okay, so far we've heard walking. These are not the ones I expected to hear, but that's good because that's part of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Walking, physical therapy, ice, heat. Okay. Exercise, absolutely. That's kind of a bigger version of walking. How about this next category here? Anybody here tonight that says, "Man, I've just been tired, like for forever." The low energy, right there. Okay. All right. Have you tried anything for that? Exercise? Oh, you guys are already on this. I don't need to be here. Okay. Good enough. Exercise. All right. Now, of course, the type of exercise is important too. So, question on some of these aches and pains. You said you had some pain. How long have you been having the pain that you're thinking of right now? 15, 20 years. So it's chronic. Okay. How long have you been fatigued? 20 years? Okay. Just after the surgery. Okay. Okay, and that was how long ago, the surgery? I don't need to know the surgery. 3 years ago? Man, that's a long time to feel like you just got no energy. So, you know, for those of us that have pains, for those of us that are low in energy, you know, we have to be looking at things to, what do you do for it? You know, I kind of expected to hear, well, I put an ice on it, I put any heat on it, the doctor gave me medication. Those are great short-term solutions, aren't they? But we want to get something long-term. So, sounds like most of you are on the ball with that. Is there anybody in here that has been experiencing pain for a long period of time that they haven't gotten involved in exercise? They've thought about it and said, nah, not yet. Is there anybody in here? Anybody willing to say that's where they're at? Okay, right back there. Okay. So, you know, you kind of have to ask yourself, at what point do I get started? At what point do I do something new, something different than just ice on heat, right? A little story at this point in time won't take too long, but is that on? There goes, I think. This older gentleman is living up in the woods, and he always goes to visit his neighbor who's about a quarter of a mile away. I said, I'm feeling up to walking over there today. So he walks over to his neighbor's house, and he's walking up to it, and he sees his neighbor sitting on the front porch, and his dog's laying there, and the neighbor waves him up. And so he goes up and he sits down, and his neighbor and him are talking, and the whole time they're talking, the dog's laying there, and he's whimpering, he's whining, and he's squirming around. Every once in a while, he lets out a yip. And the man doesn't say anything at first, and then just keeps going on, and he finally says to his neighbor, "What's wrong with your dog?" And he says, "Well, I think he's laying on a nail." And he says, "Well, why doesn't he move?" "I guess it doesn't hurt him enough yet." Yeah, so that can apply to a whole lot more than exercise, obviously. But I always like that analogy for people who say, "Well, I don't have enough time." And it really comes down to what your priorities are, doesn't it? There. So, Okay, sometimes understanding what the problem is helps out. And when we get into a place where it's chronic, it's been going on for a long period of time, what we have to realize that there's some sort of imbalance in there. Okay? That imbalance can be structural or it can be physiological. Okay? Structural from something like an injury, a surgery like this young lady was talking about. Okay? It can be from posture, age, all right? Physiological might come from something like a disease process, but something's imbalanced. And so what we want to do is regain the balance, correct? We want to get things in proper balance. And so to do that, we have to address the underlying issue. And some of these things, the walking, the exercise, physical therapy, I mean, I'm a physical therapist. I'm not going to talk that down. These things are great. That's what we have to get into to address these imbalances. This stuff is great too. I don't want to knock that either. It's just short term. It's not a cure. You know, if you go, I don't want to pick on you, but if you go for 15 years and all you do is ice, and that's not you because you said you're exercising, but if you just ice, what are you accomplishing? You're not really taking care of the issue. You're just treating the symptoms, basically. Since this gentleman over here talked about physical therapy, we have different ways to address the core problem. We're going to talk about one of them tonight that is easy for everybody to get involved with. Okay. PT, you can always go to a physical therapist. You don't have to go to a doctor first. You can go to a physical therapist here. Okay. Where I stand. Can you hear me without it? No. Okay. Shout. I'll do my best. Okay. Okay, how's that? Okay. We'll just let the cord hang down, see if that's what it wants. Okay, so we were talking about going to a physical therapist. Most people think you have to go to a doctor, not in California. You can actually go to a physical therapist first. You could go to a chiropractor. You could go to your doctor. But you may not have to go that far. You may be able to address it on your own, in your home, on your own time. So, when I say health message, what do you guys think? We're in an Adventist church, so I know there's some people that have some thoughts on that. What do you think? When I say health message, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Diet? Okay. What else? Sunshine? Air? Okay. Rest, water, sleep. All those are good. All those are good. Okay. We're going to talk about the exercise aspect of the health message right now. I want to make just a little comparison here. If there's a Christian who studies his Bible every day, I'm talking about studying under the guidance of the Holy Spirit. If they are on their knees every day, if they're in church, if they're supporting their fellow Christian, they're going to have a much healthier spiritual relationship than someone who maybe goes to church every other week or something like that, right? Okay. The same thing's going to apply for the exercise, for the physical exercise. If you don't do anything, your body starts shutting down. So we want to get that back active again. If you can imagine, let me ask, anybody ever had a cast on? If you've ever had a cast on, and I have, My arm was actually in a cast like this for about 2 months. And when I got out of that cast, it didn't want to move. Okay. And this arm was a lot smaller than this arm. I had to work to get that back to its normal function again. That's what happens spiritually or physically. So let's take a look at a couple quotes from Ellen White. She has a lot to say on exercise, but I'm only going to go with a couple of quotes here. Both of these are from Councils on Health. The first one is it's on page 173 in chapter 74. You can also, if you don't have Councils on Health, it's also in Testimonies for the Church, volume 2, page 525. But Sister White says, the chief, if not the only reason why many become invalids is that the blood does not circulate freely. And the changes in the vital fluid, which are necessary to life and health, do not take place. They have not given their bodies exercise, nor their lungs food, which is pure fresh air. Therefore, it is impossible for the blood to be vitalized, and it pursues its course sluggishly through the system. The more we exercise, the better will be the circulation of the blood. More people die for want of exercise than through over fatigue. Yes, I like this next statement. Very many more rust out than wear out. Okay. So that gives you a good example of what she's thinking. One more. This one's also from Councils on Health. It's page 199, chapter 84. You can also find this in Christian Temperance and Bible Hygiene, page 100, 101. Nature's fine and wonderful mechanism needs to be constantly exercised in order to be in condition to accomplish the object for which it was designed. The do-nothing system is a dangerous one in any case. Physical exercise in the direction of useful labor has a happy influence upon the mind, strengthens the muscles, improves the circulation, and gives the invalid the satisfaction of knowing how much he can endure and that he is not wholly useless in this busy world. Whereas if this is restricted, his attention is turned to himself and he is in constant danger of exaggerating his difficulties. If invalids would engage in some well-directed physical exercise, using their strength but not abusing it, they would find it an effective agent in their recovery. So this is a couple hundred years ago, right, that Sister White's talking about this stuff. And what do you think they're saying today? Pretty much the same thing. There's actually, in my occupation right now, there's a big push for aerobic exercise. Walking is aerobic exercise. Anything that's designed to get your heart rate up is aerobic exercise. And they're pushing that, and they're not necessarily because it's got a direct effect on the joint or whatever that was injured or operated on, but because the whole body heals faster when you're involved in something like that. So I've seen an increase in the therapists that I work with using that based on the research that's been done recently. So little comparison here. How do people get around in Christ's time? Walking. What do we do today? Yeah. Jesus is in Capernaum. He needs to get to Jerusalem. He walks there, right? You're at home. You need to go to the corner store. It's a quarter mile away. You drive there, right? Am I right? Okay. So things have changed, but as a result of that, I want to bring us back to the original design. You know, what is God's original design? And I think if you want to go to Genesis, it's 1:28 primarily. 1:26 and 1:27 are talking about God creating man. And 128 is the first command. It's the first command or talk that God has with Adam and Eve. And what does he say? In verse 20, he said, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply. Okay? Replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over it. How many think that's a passive type of thing? No, God didn't say, hey, Adam and Eve, this is God, have a seat, I got this. He didn't say that, right? He said, have dominion, replenish, subdue. That's a very active type of thing. That's the first thing God ever said to Adam and Eve in the Bible. Okay, so that's really God's original design, and so that's what we want to get back to as much as possible in our lives. So, any questions at this point in time? Okay. Yes.
I'm gonna make a really brief, really strong comment because I could take up 2 hours talking
Sure.
off my head. But our diet, what we don't know that is doing harm to us, can cause severe effects on our lifestyle health.
Diet is very important. That's a part of the health message, just like what we're talking about right now.
And I believe that one of the things people are not aware about is, and I won't limit it to milk, but there are common foods that are accepted in our society as being healthy, that are very not healthy for people. And I have 15 years of really severe health issues because of my unknown difficulties with milk. But there are other foods, there are common, ordinary foods that cause severe effects that I believe very much in what you put up there because I had so many years of so much health problems because of food-related conditions that I think is something that needs to be addressed somewhat more.
Well, I'm sure that I don't know all the topics that have been addressed here in this seminar. That's not the focus of what I'm talking about tonight, but I'm sure that will be addressed or has been addressed. And I'm sure that whoever's in charge of this has heard what you've had to say and they will take that to heart. So thank you, though. Thank you very much. Gonna get rid of this and gonna talk about, we're already on exercise. You guys are way ahead of me. More than I thought you would be, but so if that nail hurts enough, what do you do? What are your options for exercise? There's 3. The first one, and by far the most important one, is cardiovascular. Same thing as aerobic, okay? And we'll get into that in a little more. Then there's strengthening. And there's stretching. And this one, the cardiovascular, the aerobic, most people, they get into a simple walking program and that's enough for them. And that's okay. Others like to push it a little further. We'll talk a little more about that. But when you do cardiovascular or aerobic exercise, that's actually working on the energy level. Okay? And eventually pain as well. Okay? So this one is extremely important. Strengthening, that's going to work primarily on the pain. But if you strengthen something enough that it doesn't have to work so hard and expend so much energy, then it's going to work on your energy level as well. Stretching is pretty much a pain-related thing. Okay? So those are the basic types of exercise that we have. Which one or ones that you choose to use is really based upon whatever your issue is and whatever your goals are with that. So you can individualize it. We do that in the clinic where I'm at. We don't have a one size fits all when you come into our clinic. It's individualized for each person. So let's talk about the cardiovascular a little bit. Benefit comes from two things, really. The first thing that we're looking at with that, where the first benefit comes from, is it increases the work of the heart muscle itself. Okay? And as long as the heart muscle is able to tolerate what you're doing, that increased work is going to strengthen that muscle. It's going to strengthen the vessels that the blood is flowing through. And when it does that, then it functions more efficiently. It doesn't take as much for it to pump the blood through, okay? And so your body is working less hard, not very medically right, but it's not working as hard to pump the blood through, so you're not using as much energy. You're not as tired. The other thing, and you could see this running through the quotes that I read from Ellen White, is that the increased activity from doing that exercise, basically it's cleansing the body. It's moving the toxins through the system. It's getting them out of the system. It's basically purifying, and it allows for normal bodily function because those toxins are moving out. Things are flowing. It's once the system is cleansed, once the system is used to functioning at a higher level, then it also takes less energy for that to function as well, or for the body to work as well. You're basically unclogging the pipes, is what you're doing. You're getting everything out of the system that shouldn't be there, and that allows the system to function more normally. And once it's functioning more normally, it's easier to build and to work on it. And cardiovascular exercise can be a little intimidating because it requires you going out there and using energy that you don't think you have, especially if you're dealing with feeling like you don't have it. But in our business, my business, we talk about how you're not going to gain anything without putting something out. Because, I mean, if you've been just sitting around, you know you're not getting better. But if you get up and you start doing something, initially you're going to be sore. Initially it's going to feel like you have less energy. Initially it's not going to feel like you're getting anywhere. But the body, once it gets going and everything gets cleared out, is going to work so much more efficiently. And I'm not going to go into all the specifics, the physiological aspects, because we just don't have time. But yes.
The less remove your body, the more poisons stay in your body.
Yeah, and that's the rusting out that I was talking about too. Yeah.
The more you begin to die.
Okay. Yes.
If you have a healthy heart and you have plaque on your arteries and you're exercising, but you're on a quote from me right now, you put me on habits and choice for medicine that dropped down to 80 milligrams and 75. That, if I do too much exercise for my heart, wouldn't that affect what's going on to my body? I mean, I don't know if I'm saying it.
I'm not sure I understand, but let me try to answer that. Your situation is one of those that it sounds like you're already working with your doctor on, which you need to under those circumstances. It's okay to exercise. You just need to find out what level is going to work for you safely and allow you to gradually move forward. You can still, if you get started at this low level, doesn't mean you're going to stay there forever. If that's where you choose to stay, you can. But once you work here long enough, pretty soon you're going to be able to work at this level without it being a problem for you. Your body's going to get stronger. It's going to build its endurance, and it will gradually move forward. that answer your question?
A little.
A little bit.
I mean, it's, because I'm so new at this problem. And I do walk around and run around with my grandkids and stuff. I can't say I exercise, you know, regular exercise, but I do walk around and run with grandkids. But I don't know if it can't be too hard if it affects you.
Well, what you need to do is you need to find out what your safe heart rate is. Most people can go out there and they can just get started on an exercise. They're going to know that I can only tolerate this much. Because most people aren't going to go out and join a gym and get on a treadmill for an hour. They're just not going to do that.
And I was doing that.
Okay. But and if your body's ready for that, that's okay. But you're in a situation where you do have to take that route where you're working with your medical professional to find out what's safe for you. So, okay. All right. Some good examples of cardiovascular exercise. You ever seen these triathletes? They run, they swim, they cycle. Those are your basic aerobic exercises. They run, we're probably going to walk more than run. But once we walk enough, we'll be able to tolerate running. So you can run or walk, you can cycle, you can swim. I wouldn't recommend it at this time of year, but you can do that. They make all sorts of equipment that you can use for aerobics too. You can get stair climbers, Pelotons, Nautilus, Bowflex. There's all sorts of equipment out there you can get to put it in your home. It's easier to use that during the cold season than to be outside. So there are unlimited ways you can get that cardiovascular exercise in. Just a general rule, if you're planning on getting out there and doing some light walking, that's really all you want to do, you can probably do that every day. If you start there and you build and you want to do more, and you say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get on the treadmill for 45 minutes, and boy, then I'm going to start lifting some weights. That's okay if you're ready for it. You just have to realize that there's going to be a need for rest as well. So we usually recommend anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week if you're going to get involved in something like that. But the light walking, if you go out and you walk a mile every day, that's awesome. That's great. Your body's cleansing. It's clearing out the toxins. Okay. Doesn't have to be training like these triathletes that I just mentioned. Okay. Any questions specifically on cardiovascular exercise?
Can you give us some guidelines as to the amount that we should increase our heart rate or blood pressure, checking our blood pressure, specifically heart rate? What are some guidelines there?
If you're looking for specific heart rate, that will be dependent on age. It will also be dependent on any kind of conditions that you have going on, like this lady's talking about here. If you have, I don't have just like one specific guideline that is good for everybody, but because there are so many different things that go into that. As we get older especially, there are different things that go into that. But if you're going to just walk, the idea of getting out and walking, that's fine. If you need to do something more than that, if you want to do something more than that, you need to probably just talk to your doctor about it and say, okay, what's safe for me? Because he's going to know all your history and everything, if that makes sense. Now, what we tend to do from a blood pressure standpoint is where I work, if someone comes in and they have a blood pressure that's above 140 over 90, we actually make sure there's somebody one-on-one with them. It's usually not a problem there. But we do that just because we're really, covering ourselves. The norms for blood pressure are about 120 to 130 over 80, 85. That's considered in the normal range. So as it starts getting above that, we start watching the person to make sure they're tolerating the exercise well. If you get up to like 180 over 110 or higher, we won't even exercise. So those are some guidelines as far as blood pressure, but as far as heart rate, I would suggest talking to your doctor about that. That's something that will be an individual's or individualized for every person. We answer you?
If we do go talk to a doctor, what kind of tests can we start out with to look at to see if we are physically in shape to do that kind of exercise? In other words, do we want an EKG, some kind of a stress test?
The doctor is going to, stress test is probably the best way to do it. But the doctor is going to look at your history and he's going to say, okay, you've got this and this, but that's not going to affect your exercise. But you got this and that might increase your heart rate a little bit. So we want to make sure that, you're not getting above this level. But he's going to be able to take all those things into consideration and decide whether you need a stress test or whether there's something else that you need, like the EKG. They do Holter monitors that'll monitor a person for a whole 24 hours. There's different things that they can do, but that doesn't mean they have to do them or need to do them. But since I don't know your history or the history that each person here has, I can't sit here and give you a specific, this is your top heart rate, this is your where you want to stop before you go above that. I don't have that for each individual. Does that make sense? I'm sorry I can't answer that specifically right now, but because there are so many variables, it's impossible to.
So to do that blood pressure, does exercise increase it?
No, exercise is actually going to lower it.
It will?
Yeah. You just have to find the level you're able to start at and then bring it up. You'll see on one of the handouts that I have over here is another outline, like I said, that I hand out to the general public, and it actually has that statement on it that it will lower your blood pressure. There's some other statements that are just helpful for you there as well. So, anything else on cardiovascular exercise? Okay. Strengthening exercise. Why would you want to do strengthening exercise? Do you remember us talking about imbalances initially? Does anybody need this still? Okay. If you remember us talking about imbalances, there are a couple things that strengthening will actually help with as far as imbalances. If you have a weakness, that's a simple deduction from that. Or if you have what we call laxity or looseness in a joint, might be an easier way for you to understand that. But when you strengthen something, does that say 10? Thank you. When you strengthen something, what happens is the muscle fibers enlarge. Okay, it's not like you get a bunch of new fibers. The fibers that you have right now are the fibers you've had for your life, and it's the fibers you're going to have. They just get bigger. And so when you see these guys that are bodybuilders that are all built up, it's not like they've just got a bunch more fibers. It's just they've worked those muscles so hard that it's increased the size of the fibers they do have. And some people are able to get bigger than others because their genetics started them off with more muscle fibers than others. So you're basically enlarging the muscle fibers when you do strengthening exercises. And the reason for strengthening, like I said, for instability, for laxity, and different things that might bring you to that point, injury, surgery, inactivity, postural issues. Let's see, let me see if I can draw something here. Hopefully this looks like a knee, okay? Hopefully. Okay, this is gonna be the thigh bone coming down, and it comes down, and you've got, at the bottom, you got this, that's your thigh bone up to your femur. The bone down here, your tibia is like this. Down here, you got a little smaller bone right here called your fibula. And your kneecap sits right here. Okay, you're looking at a knee from the front. Okay, you're looking at someone's knee from the front. Well, that kneecap, you have muscles that attach to that kneecap. You have muscles on this side. Let's say this is the outside of the knee. And this is the inside. Okay? These muscles here come down and they attach to the kneecap. These muscles come down and they attach to the kneecap. So often, these muscles on the outside are stronger than the ones on the inside. And if it's if the imbalance is big enough, what happens to the kneecap is that it starts getting pulled off to this side. We call that lateral displacement. And this kneecap then, instead of running through the normal groove that is behind it in the bones, it starts scraping along the bone over here. It starts creating pain. So if we then go in and we strengthen these muscles here, make them as strong as these ones over here, we can resolve that. There's oftentimes a very simple way to resolve the pains that you guys are having. See if I can do this. This is also the knee, but we're looking at it from the side now. This is going to be talking about, if something's been stretched and it's too loose. This is weakness imbalance. And what we're talking about here is if something's been loose. Ever see anybody stand with their knee all the way back like this? Stand like this? What we call hyperextension. They do this and then everything else changes and they start, their whole body gets moved around. Well, what happens when the knee goes back like that, or my elbow, it's supposed to stop right there. Thankfully it does. But if it keeps going, that means there's some laxity in there. It's allowing my joint to move. But if we have laxity back here, if this is supposed to, this ligament here is only supposed to be this long, but because I've been standing with my knee back, it's now this long, then that knee is unstable. It's imbalanced, okay? And what we want to do, the only way to get this to shorten up again is to first strengthen the muscles in the back of that knee. That will keep you out of that position and it allows that ligament then to shorten up. But we can relieve pain by doing that as well. So those are the types of things we look at in helping to relieve pain. Any questions on that? Yes.
So if you have pain behind your knee, then you need to increase the strength of the muscle inside of your leg.
In this scenario, yes. You want to strengthen the muscles back here. But it may not be this same reason. No, this is in the back. Right here. Yeah. But this is for this particular scenario that I'm demonstrating. There are other reasons that you might have pain in the back of your knee. But, yes? This one here, there are specific muscles that will strengthen, or specific exercises that will strengthen this muscle. And that will then give you a greater balance. Oh, they're very simple. There's some exercises that are very, very simple. You don't have to go to the gym for the strengthening exercises. Like I said, I've got a stack of handouts right over there I'm going to put over here on this table some of them are for the knee. And there's a couple exercises for strengthening on there that you can do that will help to strengthen those very muscles. Pardon? Yeah. Yeah. Now, these are very generic exercises. I just wanted to have something for you guys. So it's something you can try, but there's something for the ankle, the knee, the hip, the wrists, the elbow, the shoulder, the neck, the back. Something for all of those. So the exercises that I have on there, I think, would be effective in balancing that out. I think those are the ones I have on there, actually. Yes? I don't know, who was first? Okay, right here. No, the torn meniscus is something that you have, you can strengthen around that and help stabilize it. But the meniscus is, the only way to actually take care of a torn meniscus is to surgically go in there and remove the part that's torn out. So, but they can, if that's an issue you have, you can certainly try strengthening before, because it depends on the size of the tear. And if the tear is a small one, strengthening exercises, I've seen exercises for strengthening and stretching combined actually give enough relief that they don't need surgery. So I've seen that happen.
On the street, very exercise from lifting weights, whatever. How can you measure your bone density? How can you find out if your bone density is in a good range for your age?
You can go, you'd have to go to your doctor for that. They do bone density tests. And for women, they do them all the time.
Is that hard or difficult?
I've never had a bone density test, never needed that. Another way that you can find out a little bit is if you go to the dentist and they take x-rays, they'll tell you that your bones are good or not. So, but
By your teeth x-rays.
by the bones in the jaw.
Your gynecologist usually orders your bone density.
Yes.
If you're I don't know how what's going on in
Question I get every day. The popping, clicky, I have patients that come in with injuries every day and they're asking me, hey, I got this pain, hey, I got this, hey, I got this, and popping is one of them. And what I usually tell them is, first off, if it just started, give it a couple days. If it goes away, then you're good. The second thing I would say is my knees pop every day too, and they don't hurt. And so, yeah. So if it's not painful, you're probably okay. Anybody else? Are we done? 5 minutes? Yes, sir.
Before you finish, could you comment on the benefits of the use of massage to alleviate pain in sore muscles?
Massage is a wonderful way to temporarily relieve a problem. I do know that massage therapy, they are incorporating new styles that are supposed to get in deeper and work on things. The training of a massage therapist is not the depth of, to say what I've got or what therapy does nowadays. So they don't have all the knowledge of how to address deeper issues or to address, what they know is how to give you a massage. And it can be very relaxing. Nothing against it, it's just not likely to be a long-term deterrent to pain.
So this year, they are no longer going to be licensed, and what they're taught is not near what it is.
Are you talking about massage therapists? I don't know if they don't need to be. I can't imagine.
I heard it from a massage therapist.
I can't imagine they wouldn't need to be licensed, but
They don't.
I don't.
In this city,
in this city? Okay. Anything else? Let me try to touch briefly on stretching. Since our time is limited, is our time up, or do we have one more thing? Okay, let me just briefly touch on stretching. Just to give you an idea of how tightness in muscles can affect you. Everybody scoot to the front of your chair. And then as you're sitting at the front of your chair, take one of your legs and straighten it out towards the ground. Does anybody feel any tightness? A little bit? Not, okay. In your calf, okay. Okay, okay. Let's try this now. Everybody scoot to the back of your chair. All the way to the back of your chair. And then while you're sitting in the back of your chair, take that same leg and put it straight out in front of you. You absolutely have got to feel more tightness with that. Okay. So that's just a simple way to experience really what tightness can do, how it can feel. If that tightness that you're feeling, which is in your hamstrings, is tight enough, it can create issues because the hamstrings attach down here below the knee, they attach up here, and because they attach all the way through that area, what you're going to get if they're tight is it's going to pull you down like this, and then you start changing everything up here. Pretty soon you're walking up saying, "Hey, I'm Scott, how's it going? Good to meet you." It just changes everything. So we do stretching exercises for that, obviously. So, all right, I have to stop. So I will get those hangouts over here on this table as soon as I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Were you blessed by all that you learned tonight? Okay, we have a few gifts to give away. So I don't know where our basket is. So okay, let's. Someone can just raise your hand. Oh, you have it, Nancy. Nancy has it.
Okay, our first number is, it'll be the last three numbers, 097. Okay, come on up. The next number is 101. Okay, come on up. 94. And 112. 112. Okay. The next number is 106. And the next number is 104. Okay, the next number is 89. 89. The next number is 85. 85. Okay. The next number is 87. 87. And the next number is 84. 84. The next number is 113. 113. The next number is 91. 91. Okay, our last three numbers are 116. Okay. 118. Okay.
Thank you so much for coming. Oh, is it one more book? Oh, it's a book here now.
117.
117. Thank you so much, and Pam was not able to stay, she had another meeting to attend, but she did want me to ask all of you that are, can stay around and help us to hurry up and tidy up so we can get out of here. So we will really appreciate it, those that can. But after that, have a nice night, and let's just close out with a short prayer. Our Father, thank you for this time, thank you for the meetings tonight, and thank you for all the things that we've learned concerning our, being able to exercise more and just treat the body well. Thank you for all your blessings in Jesus' name.